And today we join Neil, who's on the line to us from Felixstowe. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Mark. Do you know, I was ever so happy, and then you lot started singing about 20 minutes ago, and it was like my old mate Brian from Melton. It was like something out of the Wizard of Oz. I tell you, my old dog was howling.
Well, we try our best. We put Slade high up in the mix today, just to sort of help everybody out. And Tori's on the line to us now. Good morning, Tori.
Morning, Mark. I'm not grumpy, old or a git.
I know you're not, but you're here nonetheless, and I thank you for it at short notice. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. So how are we, Tori? Is everything all set for what's going to be a very odd Christmas?
Oh, yeah, I'm all over it. Over it, Mark. It makes me laugh, though. Do you want me to start grumping?
If you wish. Yeah, please, go for it, yeah.
My husband last night announced... Here she goes. I know, I never say what I really think either. He started last night, have you got this, have you got that, have you got this? It's a good job I have, really, isn't it? Because if we started yesterday, it would be a busy couple of days.
So he's just trying to be helpful. I mean, in a man's brain, there's plenty of time between now and the big day, you see.
Okay.
You know, we're obviously wired differently.
I think you must be, because I did mention it on social media, and a lot of women said that actually the men said the same. You know, their husband had suddenly said, well, do we have the Elizabeth Shaw mints in? Of course we have. We got them weeks ago. I went on my Tesco's order in October. I've been hiding those and not eating them for months. I have, though, I will admit, eaten the first batch of Christmas twiglets.
Oh, that's okay.
They need replacing.
Yeah, that's okay. We bought some Christmas wine the other week, but you know what this year's been like, so we had to order some more. So how ready are you, Neil, in Bowles Towers?
I'm absolutely perfectly ready, Mark. Everything is absolutely spot on and ready, and the Christmas tree's looking resplendent, and I'm singing along to the Christmas music, and I've treated myself to a great big giant new TV so I can watch things like It's a Wonderful Life and all that sort of thing, so we're all ready.
Oh, you're trying to curry favour with the presenter of the show there by mentioning that great movie.
I know, but we bought this lovely new television that's got super colour high definition, and that film's in black and white. Don't be tempted by the colourised version. You have to watch it in black and white. You really do. I've never seen it, so I shall watch that.
Have you not?
The Wizard of Oz later on and earlier on, and I actually watched it a couple of days ago for the first time in my life.
Blimey.
Yeah.
You have to stick with A Wonderful Life, though. It's a bit of an odd start, and you can see it's a really old film, but it grows on you, and I hope it will become a Christmas classic for you.
I'm sure it will.
I went with some friends last Christmas to watch it at the little cinema in Southwold, and I was engrossed, and they were sort of shuffling in their seats at the start of it, and I was saying, look, relax, it'll be fine. And I hope they enjoyed it. Anyway, let's start grumping today, and please call as well if you've got something you want to get off your chest. Nothing too serious. But Tori, men and SatNavs.
Oh, yes. Well, so it's just a bit of a mystery to me, because I used to get all over the place without having to have SatNav, and I don't know how I did it. Now I look back on the days of driving to Manchester for work and ending up in Moss Side, but I survived. I did it. I don't know how I did, but so now I have my little SatNav in my car, and it tells me where to go, and I follow it. But when we go on a trip with a man, if I'm driving, you have your SatNav, but he also has to have his SatNav. So I've got two going, plus him arguing with it, and a map. So what is that about? Is that, again, another male thing? Because I really don't understand it, because I just trust my SatNav. I do often have to go round roundabouts because it doesn't quite keep up with me sometimes, or I get a bit distracted by looking at the road, for example.
Yes.
But what is that another man thing? Because do you need to argue with it? Because I think they pretty much know what they're talking about.
Well, sometimes they get it wrong, though. Sometimes they'll take you to the wrong location, and if you've punched it in wrongly. So
operator error, though, isn't it? It's not down
that's why it's always handy to have a map, you see, and then you can sort of just, it's a bit like a fail-safe.
But it's more of an adventure that way. I've had it where my sat-nav's got me in the sea. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't think I'm meant to be here. But, I just turn around. Children's football matches, they're always the best ones for the most random location ever.
Yeah.
And I did end up at Sizewell Beachfront Cafe once, and that
Very
definitely
nice.
wasn't a football pitch in the pouring rain and snow. So,
see, I used to do a lot of WI talks, and I pride myself on knowing the county that we live in reasonably well. But prior to SatNav, going to find some of these locations in the dark in winter,
Yeah.
the village hall in the middle of nowhere, these WI meetings, it was a stressful moment trying to get there in time. But then, of course, the SatNav came and you just punched it in and you let it...
And ended up at the wrong village.
Yeah.
but I just don't understand why there is need to argue with it, because I think it's people in directions. Do you ever find that you have a discussion with someone, and I think it's particularly relevant in the farming industry, because they always know a better way of getting there, and we can go on for hours around the kitchen table discussing how to get somewhere. I'm not even going.
Well, my friend Ray knows better than SatNav. He'll be listening right now, and he has his own internal sense of direction, which got us lost in Spain a few years ago. But we saw some lovely places.
Exactly. You have to see nice things.
You do. It's a real surprise. What about you, Neil?
Well, I know for a fact. I had a chat with Tori's lovely husband Ben the other day, and she said Tori phoned him up and said, "I think I've got a bit of water in the carburettor." He said, "Where are you?" He said, "I think I'm parked in the North Sea," and that was all because of the SatNav. But they talk about modern day slavery and 0-hour contracts, don't they? Well, I go out in my car all kinds of times of day and night, as we all do, and it's always the same woman on duty. Have you noticed that? It's always the same woman. She never gets a day off, but you go back to the days when we actually read maps, didn't we? We actually would go out, and
Yes.
if I was going on journey, say, to Cornwall or the Lake District or something, you'd write it all down. You'd say, right, take the M1 and take the M3 and turn off onto the A47 or whatever, and you'd get there, wouldn't you? Never have any problems, never really get lost. I tend to get lost more now with the old SatNav. It's a peculiar thing. I think we're all losing the ability to read a map.
Well, there'll come a point when we don't even have road signs, I think. It'll just be, we haven't got many now. They're all fallen down, aren't they, with rust? A lot of them, to be honest.
Overgrown verges.
Overgrown verges, yes, I know.
Go down that route.
Yeah. So you remind me, Neil, of, when you have those sort of... directions down. We went Euro camping one year. We took the boys Euro camping, and it was before SatNav, and we had a 14-hour drive down to southwest France, right close to the Spanish border. And that's a heck of a long way to go. But Eurocamp, who we booked with, very kindly sent us the directions, and it was like they'd chopped down a forest. I kid you not, it was like this thick. It was like a ream of paper thick, and you had to keep turning. It was very good. It would say, at the next junction, do this, do that, just like a SatNav, but it was this gigantic printout. So Leslie
My mum used to do that when we went on holiday. She used to have the maps and everything, and then reams and reams of AA Route Master, and turn right at this banana tree, and and we ended up on the railway lines in Bruges once.
Many years ago, when I had a camper van and I got my first ever SatNav, and I set it for a destination. It happened to be in Cornwall. It was a campsite in Cornwall, and it said turn right here, turn left there, and then you were at your destination. And I pulled into the car park of a garden centre, and it turned out that the campsite was the next turning sort of thing. And and a day or two later, exactly the same thing happened again, and we ended up in the car park of a garden centre. And I suddenly thought, well, this SatNav, Garmin or whatever it's called, was sponsored by Knockcuts or something like that. But it all turned out okay in the end.
Well, I think they're a wonderful modern day delight. So I think they are incredible. I won't have a word said against SatNavs.
Do you find yourself turning it on though if you're just going down obviously like you might live in Felixstowe, I might be going down to the co-op and I have my old SatNav on. It tells me how to get to the co-op.
I had to deliver a card to my Auntie Mary the other day. She lives in Felixstowe. And I put the SatNav on.
Told you the way, did it?
Yeah, she lives just behind the Conservative Club, but I still had to put the SatNav on. Do you want to have a grizzle about something, Neil? Get it off your chest.
Well, there's something that's been affecting me very much lately, and it even happened to me yesterday, Mark. Okay. And it happened to me big time just last week. And that is every time I seem to go into a car park and park my little old car. It's only a small car, and I park and I keep well away from other cars so you don't get any scratches where people open the cars up, and I can go into an empty car park. Last week I was in Homebase in Felixstowe, and I got there for 9 o'clock when they opened. The little old car park there by Homebase was empty, just 2 or 3 staff cars, and I parked in a lovely place, and whilst I was sat in the car, before I'd even got out, another car had parked right next to me, and the man had parked so close to mine, he had trouble getting out of his own car in an empty car park. Last year I went to Solar, and that was 4:45 on a Sunday afternoon, and they have to close at 4, as you probably know.
Yep.
And it was raining, and it was horrible, and the car park was virtually empty. And when I came out, there was a car parked absolutely next to mine, so tight I could hardly get in. And then the year before, that happened again, and I had to climb in through the passenger door. But everywhere I go lately, I get buzzed by people parking next to me.
What sort of car is it?
Personality.
Yeah, what sort of car is it, Neil, and what colour?
The car's only a little old Vauxhall Nova, poor little old thing. It's only
What colour?
year old. It's done no harm to anyone. It's got no scratches. It doesn't look like it should be down the Sacker's tip or something like that.
What colour?
It's a nice little old car, but why do people have to...
What colour?
It's blue. It's a nice blue metallic.
Okay.
There's nothing offensive
All right.
about it. I mean,
So we should encourage everybody now, if they see a blue Vauxhall Nova, metallic blue, a year old, to park right next to it. Hunt it out.
Well, it makes no difference. They'll do it anyway, Mark. Whether you put it out of the peel or not, they're going to do it, aren't they? Mad.
I know, it is very strange. I have seen that happen. And as someone who drives a car with only 2 doors, they are much bigger doors.
Yeah, mine's only got 2 doors
Yeah.
as well, because I'm not as rich as some people. I mean, I was with a customer. I do a bit of handyman work yesterday, and I was with a customer yesterday, and I said, I'm going on the old Mark Murphy show and have a grump. And they said, surely you're not you, Neil. You're such a lovely, happy person. And I said, well, you don't know me very well. But and I told them what I was going to grump about, and they said, well, a very similar thing. They said, we went to a deserted beach. I think it was in Antigua or somewhere in the Caribbean. And they said you could see from a mile each way, and there was no one there. And they sat down, and before you knew it, the family from... well, wherever came from, with 3 noisy kids, and they sat down on the towels about 5 yards from them. And they said, it's a similar thing.
I know a man that comes up to people on beaches randomly, though. And hugs them. Yeah.
Yeah, have a little cuddle in your bikini.
What say?
Yeah. Neil just leaps out at people he sees on the beach and just gives them a hug, and I'm not a hugger. He knows
thank goodness we've got the 2 metre, 1 metre rule at the moment. Then for you
I know
both,
that's the only thing that's beneficial to me about this whole COVID thing. No touching.
What about in a supermarket, Tori, when people stop and have a chat and have a catch up? They haven't seen each other for months.
Well, they always park in the wrong place. Don't they? Get to the side, people. I do think that the supermarkets need to have a chatting area. So they just need a little pull-in. Like you have those narrow lanes around with passing places. You need those in a supermarket. So just slide the old tomatoes down a bit and put in a little gap, because I love a chat. But wherever you go, you're always in the way, aren't you? And they're there for hours. And then I find that I'll carry on doing my thing, because I'm always in a bit of a hurry when I'm in a supermarket. I don't like to hang around. But then they'll have chatted in the milk aisle, and then they'll be chatting again in the biscuit aisle. I'm like, stop with your chatting. Go to the parking area. That's what you need. 2 metres, get some marking spaces out there, spread it out a bit. If you want to chat people, off you go over there. Out of my way. Don't talk to me when I'm shopping. I'm busy. And I have to concentrate, because as soon as I lose the thread on that shopping list, I write my shopping list in the order of the aisles. And so if I get wrong, then I've got to go back. And if someone talks to me, or there's someone distracted my list and I can't get past them to the hobnobs, then it's ruined. I have to start all over again, go back to the start, and off I go again. So
you want passing places in supermarket aisles?
I think it's a lovely idea. You know, it encourages social interaction to stop loneliness. And those of us who don't want to interact don't park in the parking area, do we?
No, we don't.
So if you see your mate, it's like, all right. And if you haven't pulled into the parking area, it means you don't want to talk to them.
Brilliant idea. Fabulous.
I'm full of them.
I'll tell you what, we're going to start the grumpy old Gits political party, and I think that should be on the manifesto, that one. Definitely.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that one. John Durrant's been in touch, Neil. He says, thanks for the heads up on the Blue Nova in Felixstowe.
Oh, thank you, John. Yeah, I shall look out for your little old car parks up next to me. I'll tell you what, Mark, I was one of your original Grumpy Old Gits on your first ever Grumpy Old Gits show, as you will recall. And I've worked with some legends: Stephen Bayfield, Barry Dye, Captain Canary, the Reverend Andrew dodging in his sandals. But Tori may not be old, and she may not be a git, but God bless, she's grumpy, isn't she?
She is. She really, really is. Now, here's one that I have never dared to bring up on the radio, Neil, and you are going to do that now.
Oh, no.
And it's about what sits on the top of a Christmas tree. Now, I've often wondered this myself. I've never, in all my broadcasting years, had the courage to bring this up about what sits on the top of a Christmas tree. But, Neil, you're the man.
I've got one here that's about 50 years old that sits on the top of my tree. It's a bit of a family heirloom, and it's an angel. Because if we go back to the original roots of the Christmas story and the baby Jesus born in a manger and born in swaddling clothes, and the angel Gabriel came down and gave him all lovely wishes and all that sort of thing, how many people say they've got a fairy on the Christmas tree? It's not right, Mark. It's just not right. They're not fairies. They're angels. And I even looked on the big selling site that's name of a big American river. You know, I'm not allowed to probably say Amazon, am I? But I looked on there yesterday under Christmas angels and Christmas fairies. And more of them were referred to as fairies than angels. It's not right.
You should have them under the Trade Description Act, Neil, I reckon. Another campaign for you.
So. I'm just not happy about that. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things that really gets to me every time. It's an angel. It's not a fairy. So people out there, please refer to your thing. Or some people have a star, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, some people have a star.
Him that brought the three wise men to Jesus and all that sort of thing. But it's an angel.
Okay, not a fairy on top of the Christmas tree.
Oh.
Okay. I'd love someone to call in this morning who has got a fairy on top of the tree. Do you not believe in fairies then, Neil?
Well, I do believe in fairies, yeah, and I do say to my lovely... I've got a new fiancée now, by the way. You know,
congratulations.
I'm all engaged to be married. I'm all loved up. And she sometimes points, when we're messing about, she'll point at me. And there's an old saying that I learnt from my old granny, I think. It says, don't point or you'll kill a fairy.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't, no.
Don't point or you'll kill a fairy. So I do believe in fairies, and I go over the grove in the little woods in Felixstowe. I go over there regularly with my little old puppy, and there's a fairy tree with a fairy house. It's lovely, so I do believe in fairies. I'm not dissing fairies, please.
Okay.
Don't think I'm an anti-fairy person, but on the top of my tree is an angel.
Okay. Brian in Melton's got a fairy on top of his tree. It's called Fanny. Fanny the fairy on the top of his tree. He talked about it 2 weeks ago.
I'm surprised he didn't call it Leslie.
She's up there. Just had this come through from John Rednall. Morning, John. Being of the same vintage as Mark and similar grumpiness, I have to grumble about abbreviated road signs. I mean, St Edmund was bound up, covered in arrows like a porcupine, and the poor chap is abbreviated to St Ed's on the A14. It just says St Ed's on the sign. And why don't they make the road signs bigger to accommodate the longer place names? Just make the road signs a bit bigger or the lettering smaller. Gets on my chuffer, says John.
What do you think, Tori, about that?
Well, I don't understand any abbreviations anyway. I can't do text speak and I still can't do emoji. So if you abbreviate something, I'm totally lost.
Well, that's where your SatNav comes in, you see. That's where that comes in.
I love it when SatNav changes place names, though. That's my favourite.
Well, what you need to do with it is to... I remember coming back from the middle of Suffolk, from the Barker's farm in the middle of Suffolk one night, many, many years ago, and we were in a Renault Espace, and there was a whole load of us in this Renault Espace, and the person driving home was the only one sober. You can picture the scene, can't you? Poor old designated driver. And she was battling her way back from the middle of Suffolk back to Ipswich, and someone reprogrammed the SatNav to speak in Portuguese.
That's a good prank, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. That is.
I do like a prank, so yeah, I might try that one.
Can I have a go? Can I have a go?
Have a good old moan, Mark.
Can I have a go? I want to have
up for Christmas today, aren't you?
I am.
A few days off.
I am going to have a few days off. I just want to sleep tomorrow and for probably a week, but like a lot of people, I want to have a moan about Christmas puddings. You see, the thing is, you sit down on Christmas Day to the biggest meal of the year. And then you're full, aren't you? You've got sprouts in you, you've got potatoes, you've got turkey, whatever it is.
Yep.
You are absolutely full to the gunnels. And then someone says, would you like some Christmas pudding? And who thought that Christmas pudding was a good idea to have after a turkey dinner? Surely if you were planning today a traditional Christmas meal, if you're starting from fresh, you might still go for a turkey, although that came in for some stick last week on Grumpy Old Gits because it was quite bland. But anyway, you'd probably have a big bird on the table, wouldn't you, if you were lucky? And then you would have surely something light after, like a sorbet or something along those sort of lines, something nice and delicate. But no, we're going to fill you up with a Christmas pudding. And
if you didn't get full, though, you wouldn't go for your Christmas walk. You have to be completely
I'm already full. I don't need the pudding to fill me up. And if it's so good, why is it only served at Christmas? If it's that good, why can't you get it in the summer?
Well, I think...
Why do they keep interfering with it? That's the thing, is that I did find one with chocolate in it, which I was quite excited about. That would be nice. But again, I don't generally manage to fit any in.
It's like a British institution, really. I think as a British person, I feel duty-bound to drink tea, and I drink copious amounts of tea. I do love a cup of tea. But I also think it's my duty to eat Christmas pudding. And if I'm absolutely honest, I'm not particularly keen on it. I haven't got any room for it. I'd much rather have a little old sherry trifle or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And your lovely travel lady, the lovely Stephanie Mack, she bought me a Christmas pudding last year as a present. Lovely Christmas pudding. It was delicious. But if you get a good quality Christmas pudding, they're worth having. But the cheap ones, nah.
No, I can't be doing with it. Well, we've got one. I'll have a little mouthful of it and a bit of brandy butter just for old time's sake, really.
You have to put loads of custard on it. That's what I think, just to float it away.
Custard?
Yeah.
No, brandy cream. And now we're going to have a debate about that. I mean, Mark, if you have a Christmas pudding and you force a little bit down, what would you put on it as the topping?
Crisp brandy butter.
Brandy butter?
I've never tried it.
I've grown into it. I was a custard boy in our house when I was young, but I've grown into brandy butter now. And
Do I need to go and get a pat of brandy butter to give it a whirl?
Oh, it's not a pat. It's in a little tub.
Well, how's it called
one of the great
then?
quotes from Radio Suffolk, Mark Murphy, saying, I was a custard boy when I was young.
I was a custard boy when I was young. I'm proud of it.
I'm a custard girl now. I drink it out of the carton.
Brenda's been in touch. I agree. It should be an angel or star on top of the tree. We're getting further and further away from the true meaning of Christmas.
Good old
Christ
Brenda.
came
Happy
first.
Christmas, Brenda.
So let's put him back in. There wouldn't be a Christmas if it wasn't for him, says Brenda. But here's a message from Connor, who lives with two gay men at the moment, and they have two Christmas trees. Instead of a fairy, angel or star, they have a naked Action Man figurine on one tree and a naked Hercules figurine on the other. Anything goes. In 2020, this is from Barry, not the delivery driver in Felixstowe. I've got a Barbie doll dressed as Wonder Woman on the top of my tree. Don't you want to live around Barry's house? Oh, sorry. Yes. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that one. And another one coming in here. Good morning, Mark. Merry Christmas to you all. And at BBC Radio Suffolk, I've got a star on my Christmas tree and looks great. Enjoy your Lions the next few days, but don't be off the radio too long. Enjoyed Brian from Melton this morning. He's great too. Thank you very much. That's very, very sweet of you. So, Neil, do you have another one on your list that you want to have a little go at?
Well, do you know that there's been a lot of negativity lately, and I can fully understand negativity because of the COVID crisis and with the Christmases being kind of curtailed and all this sort of thing. And what I really want to say to people is you've got to stay positive. We don't want any negativity because that can really get people down. And if you can't see your family at Christmas, or you can only see them for one day instead of maybe the 4 or 5 that we were hoping for, then it's not going to change. If you moan about the situation, if you have a good old grump and a good old moan, it won't change anything. So what I want to say to people is you've got to be positive. You've got to say, right, we're going to have a good time, we're going to enjoy it, we're going to have Zoom, we're going to go on Facebook, on Messenger and talk to our family, and we are going to have a nice time. So I don't want any negative people, I want all positive vibes.
Tori, what do you say to that?
Well, I think that's lovely, yes. I am trying. I must admit that sometimes it does get me a little bit grumpy and a bit like, I just want to see my friends. I miss my friends. I talk to my mum and dad more than I ever did, I think. So that's one good thing. I talk to them. I don't see them. But actually, I am quite missing my friends. So, but I am going to have a nice Christmas. We've got enough food to sink a ship. And I think it's lovely. The positive thing is actually, yes, start eating now. Because you're never going to get through it, especially if you put that Christmas pudding at the end of Christmas lunch. There is not a hope of my smoked salmon appetisers for Christmas Day tea going down. Eat them now. Just do it. Get into it. Get into the joy.
Yeah, I do think, I know it's disappointing this year for an awful lot of people, but we have got to wring out the goodness that we can out of Christmas this year. And I do worry, on a slightly serious note, I do worry going into the new year. There is a bit of negativity and stress around at the moment, and I'm experiencing it the same as everybody else. When we first went into the pandemic at the beginning of the year, we were really we felt like we were in it together. Everybody was in it together. Doesn't quite have that same feel about it now. So I hope that we can kind of realise that we are all in it together, and if we all do the right thing, then we'll come out the other side and get our injection. I think
you're right, Mark, and I think it's going to be January, February is always a really tricky time for people anyway. So it is going to be pretty tough this year. I think myself, I'm usually quite a positive, chirpy person, and I like to find the silliness in life. But January and February is usually quite a funny old time for me because I'm a bit grumpy. So actually, I think we're going to have to do something to try and find some silliness because I think, let's have a Tory challenge. I did this one year with my husband that in my New Year's resolution I was going to do something silly, one thing every single day. And the first day I did a forward roll, and then the next day I tampered with his sandwiches. But actually that was a really nice thing to just, one silly thing. Get out of your comfort zone, be silly, have a bit of fun, because otherwise it's going to be a bit of a long old drag.
There's a lot of people getting in touch with us today. This has just come in on email from Jimmy. And regarding the fairy on top of the Christmas tree, this is how the tradition started. Thought you'd like to know. When 4 of Santa's elves got sick, the trainee elves did not produce toys as fast as the regular ones, and Santa began to feel the pre-Christmas pressure. Then Mrs. Claus told Santa her mother was coming to visit, which stressed Santa even more. When he went to harness the reindeer, he found that 3 of them were about to give birth, and 2 others had jumped the fence and were out, heaven knows where. Then he began to load the sleigh. One of the floorboards cracked, the toy bag fell to the ground, and all the toys were scattered. Frustrated, Santa went into the house for a cup of apple cider and a shot of rum. When he went to the cupboard, he discovered the elves had drunk all of the cider and hidden the liquor. In his frustration, he accidentally dropped the cider jug, and it broke into hundreds of little glass pieces all over the kitchen floor. He went to get the broom and found the mice had eaten all the straw off the end of the broom. Just then the doorbell rang, and an irritated Santa marched to the door, yanked it open, and there stood a little fairy with a big Christmas tree. The fairy said cheerfully, "Merry Christmas, Santa. Isn't this a lovely day? I have a beautiful tree for you. Where would you like me to stick it?" And thus begun, wait for the end, thus begun the tradition of the little fairy on top of the Christmas tree.
I'm looking at my beautiful little old angel now on the top of my tree now. I'm thinking, I'm looking at her in a different light now.
Well, my fairy looks like she definitely got it put where it was supposed to go.
Chris has been in touch, the hairy biker. He says, "Morning, Mark. I must admit I've not before had cause to contact you, but today I'm joining in with the grumps. I've been trying to convince BBC Radio Suffolk to play Quo's Christmas song, so far without success. Can you have a word?" I'll do my best, but my goodness me, that's above my pay grade. What about you, Steph?
Oh, definitely. I'm not allowed to go anywhere near the music, I'm afraid. Just travel. That's all they let me do.
It's a bit above our pay grade.
Yeah.
James from Wicks has just dropped us a text. Start a Brian Gann club. I think he means fan club. I think that's predictive text coming there. Start a Brian fan club. Well, we could do, couldn't we?
I think he's already got one.
I think he has.
I think it's there.
We have a Neil and Tory gang club.
And didn't you, Tori, I see from my screen here that you actually made a Christmas pudding for your mum one day?
I did, yes. A home economics special. Us convent girls, we were all in there with Mrs. Dawson, asked to make a Christmas pudding. Took all the gear in, and I think we made it in the summer. And the teacher said, right, it'll mature, so you put your wax paper over it and everything. Mum was like, right, okay, well, we're going to have your Christmas pudding. There's only my dad that likes it anyway, so gratefully over this Christmas pudding, plopped it out on the plate full of maggots.
Oh!
Yeah, Mr. Fly had got in there. It was probably
dreadful Mr. Fly.
So that's
awful.
Why, so watch your Christmas pudding, people.
Yeah.
It might not be mixed peel.
I'm 64 now. I've got a younger sister who's in her late 50s, and she failed her O-level mock exam for cookery because she did some kind of a pudding that had to go in the oven and be baked, and she used a Tupperware pudding dish.
Ooh.
My granny, she used
detention.
to put brandy in her. She used to have a rack above her Arga, and she used to have a bottle of brandy and a bottle of Jay's fluid above the Arga, and she put Jay's fluid in a Christmas pudding once.
Oh my goodness!
Imagine that smell.
Oh, lovely. Christine's on the line in Lowestoft now. Hello, Christine.
Hello.
Hello, Christine. Good morning. What's on the top of your Christmas tree, Christine?
Father Christmas.
Santa Claus is on the top.
Yep.
How lovely.
Yeah. How come Santa's up there then?
Well, my husband and I, we couldn't agree. I wanted the fairy, he wanted the star. So we'd got children coming round for Christmas, so I striped Santa Claus, and that was it.
Lovely.
It's a good old-fashioned compromise, that is, isn't it?
Well, that's what life is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and Santa on top of the tree is it works, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
And what about Christmas puddings? Are you with me on that? Should they not be served up after a main Christmas dinner?
Oh, they should be served up any time.
Oh.
And home cooked as well.
You don't agree with the store-bought ones then?
No.
Oh.
No, my nana taught me to cook.
Mm.
And she would haunt me if I bought one.
Don't do it then. Don't do it.
I never will.
Some people eat it cold as well.
Oh.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
Wasn't your nana though haunting you the ultimate in threat? My granny threatened me with all sorts of things she was going to haunt me for, so I still have to put my silver out on New Year's Eve and all the little things she told me just in case Granny's going to haunt me.
Well, yeah, you've got to be wary.
You have. I am. You have. Thank you very much, Christine, for getting in touch with us. And Neil and Tori, we are out of luck and out of time now. We have no more time. So I thank you both very much for being Grumpy Old Gits on my final show before Christmas. Final one of 2020.
It's been a very, very difficult year for everyone, but you and the guys at Radio Suffolk, the guys and girls here, what a job you've done. Fantastic. Kept us all going, and thank you for that. And I wish all you and all the staff and all the listeners a very Merry Christmas, and 2021 will be better.
Well, let's hope so. Let's get through this all together, and then we can meet up properly next year. Tori, thank you so much. I hope it all goes well for you.
Happy Christmas, and have a lovely time. I'm going out to the shed because I've got a ewe who's not feeling the Christmas spirit, and those two lambs are laying in there in a heap, and she just keeps looking as if to say, well, I didn't plan that.
Captain Canary's just been in touch, our tame Norwich City fan. He says he's got a canary on top of his Christmas tree. Well, I tell you what, Simon, like the rest of the Norwich City team, they won't be up there long after Christmas. They come down, as we know, quicker than the Christmas lights. Thank you both very much for Grumpy Old Gits today.